I wanted to do the presentation in a non-technical and very informal way. Now, to tell you that this is my first attempt to talk about certain things, okay, without using any equation, okay. So when I was planning to do that, I said, can I do it? The courage that I got is reading the book by Acemoglu and Johnson. They have about, I think, 600 pages or so a book on power and progress, and I'll be referring to that on and off. And they didn't use a single equation, okay? And this guy, Acemoglu, who got Nobel Prize, I mean, both of them got Nobel Prize. I mean, he is highly technical. He's a professor at MIT. But then I was thinking that, well, how could they write a book without using any equation? So this was something that gave me kind of an inspiration. Some of my friends were saying that, well, why can't you write a book without using all the technicalities? That's a big challenge. I mean, I don't think that I can do that. But again, that gave me some courage that, okay, let me just try to do it and see whether I'll be successful or not. But again, the point is that, well, I mean, first part of the talk, I'll be talking about more or less the approach that they were talking about, and then I'll try to relate it to some of my work. So this is not a research paper as such, because if I do that, that would be kind of full of econometrics equation and things like that. I'm deliberately avoiding that, okay? But I hope that you will be able to understand or relate what I'm talking about first half an hour or so to some of my work. And if you are interested in knowing more of that, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity, okay? So let me start with this basic idea of productivity, because again, this focus is on productivity, technology, and income inequality, okay? So what is productivity? Everybody knows what productivity is. We all talk about it. I mean, from economic point of view, we say that, well, it's output per unit of input, mostly labor. So we just measure it by Y is kind of GNP or GDP or output, and then L is labor. Now we know that, well, labor is not the only input. So sometimes we just, instead of using this simple measure, we talk about total factor productivity, or TFP. Which kind of recognizes inputs other than labor, capital, land, and things like that, okay? Okay, so the point is that, well, everybody talks about productivity, and then the next thing there's this, well, how to increase productivity, right? So it may be highly productive, but the question is that, well, whether it is sustainable, whether you can keep on increasing it, okay? So when you look at it from a macro perspective, I mean, kind of everybody here knows Solo's model, right? I mean, who got growth theory from, they all know Solo's model. And the basic conclusion of Solo's model is that in the long run, productivity or output per capita can increase only through technical change, okay? That means technical change, meaning if you think industrial production function, it's a shifter. It will be, without technical progress, I mean, there would be no increase in per capita income. And then Paul Krugman said basically the same thing. His argument was that productivity is productivity is everything in the long run. Oh, sorry, productivity is not everything in the long run. Productivity is not everything, but in the long run, it's almost everything, okay? So the point is that, well, again, we are just talking about productivity, saying that, well, this is essential. So the point that is missing, and this is what Acemoglu and Johnson pointed out, that again, there is a difference between what you call technical, difference between productivity and economic well-being, okay? So that one, again, I'll be focusing on a bit. Okay, that means how about income distribution? Solo never talked about income distribution. So if your per capita income goes up, again, meaning it's Y over L, so somebody is getting the benefit of it. But the question is that who are those people? If you think in terms of capital and labor, whether it's the labor class or the owners of capital, right? So that's kind of the issue that Acemoglu and Johnson focused on, okay? So that one, again, they focused on this by saying that, well, it depends on the type of technology that is being used, okay? And then when I was reading all these things, I was very excited. And then I said, well, okay, the type of work that I do is exactly related to what they're talking about. The only difference is that they talk about in a macro context, and I do similar things in the micro context. So that's kind of the only difference. So Arundhati, I have not used any equation, I won't be using it. Okay. So here, again, Acemoglu and Johnson, they take a different view, because their main point is that, well, this increase in productivity, how does it translate into economic well-being? Okay, so this is these are not the same thing. Okay, so increase in Y over L, okay, does not necessarily mean that again, labor or owners of capital, they will be equally or fairly benefited from that. Okay, so they give a lot of example, historical example mostly. And again, here I just point out 3 things. So this industrial revolution, that period, productivity increased substantially, but wages didn't increase at all. And in some cases, they were saying that in England, wages went down. And I couldn't believe that, well, that was the case, because I didn't know the history of it. Okay. And then again, they said that, well, during the post-war, post-Second World War period, that was the best period in the U.S. Productivity increased, wages also increased. So what was the reason for that? Now, labor union came into play, because they were forcing forcing people like like a Rockefeller or like Ford and those type of industrial giants to increase wage. Okay. And then what happened is that, well, after 1980, things started going back to the original form for different reasons. Okay. So again, I'll be talking about some of those things. Okay. So again, just to give you some numbers, between 1980 and 2020, labor productivity in the U.S. grew by 70%, whereas wages increased by only 15%. So the gap or the divergence between productivity and wages, again, if you think in terms of share of workers, that gap didn't narrow down. Okay. So the question is that, well, when you look at it from an academic point of view, this is kind of the fact. So the question is that, well, why did it happen? Okay, or how can you explain that phenomenon? Right, the way we are taught economics. Okay, at this in a neoclassical framework, this type of thing is not supposed to happen, because wages are paid according to their marginal products under a perfectly competitive market. Right. So the question is that, well, when you are not paying workers according to their marginal product, there has to be something like imperfect competition. Okay, that means you have a markup, right? Markup in the product market. You are selling a product, and your price, output price, okay, is bigger than the cost of or marginal cost. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, which is not that well discussed, is that, well, they have also control over the input market, meaning that, well, they dictate how much wages they will pay. Usually that's what we don't talk about. You just say that, well, the supplier, they have control over the market, but it's the other way around. Actually, it's the producer, they are controlling both the output market and the input market. So that the input market thing, I have to do some research and see whether people have focused on that. But again, I was kind of working on some of those things, or talking to some of my co-authors about bringing that particular issue, that imperfect labor market or input market. Okay, but again, I was thinking in terms of different ways, not that the employer has control over the wages. Okay. The other explanation is, again, this is along the line of Acemoglu and Johnson, is that, well, it also depends on the nature of technical change. Okay, because remember I was talking about technical change. So the question is what type of technical change is there. So there we can look at it in 2 different ways. Okay, first thing is that neutral and non-neutral technical change. Okay, and in Solo's model, technical change is neutral. So what is neutral? That means it's increasing productivity of all the inputs, or if you have only capital and labor, in the same proportion. So it's not biased towards any particular input. Okay, so what it means is that, well, if I have the graphs, okay, so this is the only if you talk about mathematics, this is how far I'll go. Okay, So the first line is that t equal to t0, and the red line is for a different time period. It's isoquant. Okay, so to produce the same level of output. Okay, so the second one in red is saying that okay, you can produce the same amount of output with using less capital and labor, right? But look what is happening. This shift is parallel. Okay, I mean if you want to use the word parallel, but we were told that sometimes that in mathematics we don't use the word parallel unless it is a straight line. But anyway, this is what it is. Now, what is happening to technical change if it is biased or so again the isoquants are not parallel. So what is happening in here on skilled labor? This I changed the example. Well, it's just a kind of what is the word that means again it's not parallel. It's just moving down in more towards skilled labor. Right? So what is the implication of that? I mean, if you look at the first dot that I have on the black line, that's the optimal point. Okay, that is how much of skilled and unskilled labor is using. Now, after the technical change, that means like you are talking about technical change that is biased towards skilled workers. That means you are talking about people who are working in the high tech industries, right? So the question is, they are because of the fact that their productivity is a lot more. The number of high tech people who use that will be less. They will be also paid in higher wages. So the question is, what is happening to the total share, okay, or WL in a wage times labor divided by the value of output. Right? So that will depend on what we call elasticity of substitution. Okay, I'm not getting into the technicalities of it, but you will see that even if L is decreasing and W is increasing, okay, it depends on how much, okay, what is the reduction in L or what is the increase in W. So what happens is that empirically it is found that the share of labor, okay, for this high-tech people that is going down, okay. So the empirical evidence is that sometimes people use it as an empirical evidence to justify using non-neutral technical change. Okay, that means productivity of even if you divide labor into two parts, skilled and unskilled labor. So for skilled labor, you just see that there is a productivity gain which is much faster than unskilled labor, or relative to unskilled labor, productivity of skilled labor is a lot more. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of so if you look at the data and try to model it, you will be saying that okay, this shift in the isoquant parallel shift or neutral technical change is not what we observe in reality. Okay. Okay, so two ways of doing it. We're talking about neutral and non-neutral, and another way of looking at it is exogenous versus endogenous technical change. Exogenous means you are not doing anything. Okay, you are getting older, or if you don't like the word older, you are getting more experienced, and your productivity is increasing. Right? That happens. I mean, not saying that doesn't happen. We all know that because you are more experienced, you know more things, and so that's kind of exogenous. That means you are not doing anything deliberately to increase your productivity. The other is endogenous, meaning that you are doing something, okay, to increase productivity, right? So that is called endogenous technical change. That means it's not coming to you. You are doing something. We're investing. Let's say we're training the workers or using more modern tools for production and that type of thing. So the main point that I'll be focusing on is that one technical change is endogenous. It can be directed to bias some factors. So if you are the owner or you have the capital, right, you can figure out that what am I going to be doing? I'm not going to be investing this money on something that I don't like. I want to make, let's say, chips. So for making computer chips, you need to invest in certain types of technologies. If you want to use robots, then you will be using a different type of technology. Okay. Or I have that example somewhere else. If you think in terms of the technology, like in West Bengal, you just talk about, for example, chip making. I don't think that was the issue, but the other one is what? Television and movie, right? So you can think in terms of that, right? That's kind of a general type of technology that will benefit probably many people. Okay, but the other one, I mean, if you have a fixed amount of money that you want to spend on chip making, there will be only few people who will be employed, and their wages is going to be a lot more. So again, you can direct, you meaning in this case the state, okay, can direct the technical change to benefit certain types of people, right? Now, if you change the example, okay, you can also direct the technical change to bring what you call this regional disparity. Okay, so think in terms of places like Bangalore or in the US, Silicon Valley. So these areas, okay, they are developed for a particular type of industry, right? So these are focused on specialty firms. So you can make, you meaning this case state or again the owners of capital or whoever has the money to invest, they can direct that money to have technical change for a particular type, okay? And that is crucial. So some view this as regional disparity. I was talking to some people in Norway, and they were saying that, well, this is kind of black side of technology because they don't like one region going up like Bangalore and the other regions are falling behind. So like our MA classes, we're talking about unbalanced economic growth. Okay, so there is an issue whether you are to do it deliberately or this is kind of part of the process. So here, again, it's kind of deliberate, okay? So again, I didn't like the idea that is black side of technology. I said, well, this is not a black side. Somebody is making the decision to make it black, if you call it black, right? So you cannot blame Genie that, well, Genie is bad. No, Genie is not doing anything. He's just following the order of the master, right? So here you have the money, you are investing it in a certain type of things, knowing that it's not going to increase employment by a lot, right? But again, like whereas if you invest the money in a general type of technology, it will be generating more employment, right? So again, the question is, what do you want to do? Okay, so this is technology is not automatically benevolent, okay? Outcome depends on power in institutions, okay? So this is kind of a Asimoglu type thing. Innovation can be directed towards replacing or augmenting labor, right? If you want robots, okay, that is going to be replacing labor, right? Whereas there will be some technical or innovations that will augment labor. So if you think in terms of doctors performing surgery or diagnosis, they can get the help of AI just to make a better decision or a lot more decision, lot more surgery in a particular time. So the last one is the state can create deliberate regional disparity by promoting certain types of innovation. That means, again, when I'm focusing on that, I'm just deliberately just trying to hammer on this thing that this is endogenous. This is a decision made by either state or in a capitalist or whatever word you want to use. Who has the money to finance those things? Okay. So the question is that, well, if you want to say that, well, I want a technical change or innovation that will have a greater impact, greater meaning that, well, much wider than a certain section of the community, then you want to redirect your innovation towards those type of things. So these are certain things, invest in education, public goods, and things like that, okay? So that's kind of the first part of it. That means, that means the ideas that I got from Asimoglu and Johnson, okay? But their approach is all macro because they are giving evidences from different countries at different points in time to make their case that, again, look, these are the innovations like during the industrial revolutions, who were getting the benefits, okay? Or how they managed to extract the surpluses from the workers, right? If you are thinking in terms of those two classes. Then I started thinking that, well, okay, this is what they were talking about, right? But remember, I told you that, well, they were not doing any econometrics. They were basically talking about those things. You are giving some numbers that, again, the productivity in particular year was this, and then 10 years later, it was like that. Now, whenever I do those type of things, again, since I always deal with data, okay, one part of me, or a major part of me will be telling that, okay, that's fine, but again, how do we quantify that, okay? So where is data or where is the evidence, right? You talk about, okay, productivity of this class or this group is increasing. By how much, okay? How do you figure it out? Now, if you think in terms of RCT types things, randomized control, you can just say that, okay, just think in terms of dividing this to data or this industries into two parts. One that are using a particular type of technology, the other one is not, right? But again, that's kind of naive because you cannot have two identical firms that has everything else exactly the same except for one thing. So that won't work. So you have to do some econometrics. Okay. So again, my research focuses on productivity using micro data. And again, when you look at it, and Preeti pointed out a lot of those things. Okay, that means I work on manufacturing, in agriculture, banks, airlines, again, many other things. Okay. And the other thing that I do, which I'm not talking about in here, is I distinguish between productivity and efficiency, okay? So what is efficiency? Again, I just have one particular graph, okay? So this is the production function that everybody knows, okay? I guess some of you have not forgotten the production function that you learned in the first course in economics. So we just draw the line, okay? Now what happens is that, well, then we ask ourselves that given a particular level of inputs, right? Think in terms of, what is my pen? Okay. So if you think in terms of a particular level of input in here, X, you are supposed to get this much of output, right? But what happens is that, well, it's possible that someone is not producing the maximum output but less than that. So I tend to ask people that, is it possible to produce less than maximum? Of course, everybody says that yes, I mean, we can produce less than maximum, right? But we cannot produce more than maximum because maximum is defined as the maximum, right? You cannot cross that limit, but you can be below that, right? So what is then the difference? If you're not doing it, the difference is what we call inefficiency, right? So the production, again, for some, inefficiency may be 0 or very small, right? So this is one part that I deal with whenever I estimate productivity or efficiency or whatever whatever we want to do with production function. Now, if you have two inputs or many inputs with two capital and labor, let's say, well, this is the point, okay, actual point, and you are using this combination of L and K to produce a level of output given by this isoquant, right? So again, you know that you are using more than what is needed. And again, you can drop down from A to B to the isoquant, and you say, well, this is the amount of labor that is used in excess, right, or overuse of labor and capital, right? So again, you can talk about inefficiency both from input point of view or from output point of view. If you're looking at from output point of view, then your output is less than maximum. When you are looking at from inputs point of view, you are using more input than is necessary. A long time ago, I just did some work on Indian banking. I think this might be with Subrata, and I didn't meet Subrata before writing, I think, two of the papers that we published. Anyway, so what happened is that, well, we were just trying to establish that whether Indian banks use labor more than what is necessary, okay? And some of the things, I worked for a bank for 6 months or so in India, so I know what it is. And again, you go to the post office those days, I don't know the post office now, and you know that efficiency of post offices, meaning that, well, there are people who are not doing the work they're supposed to be doing. In a bank, I have seen that, okay, there are 6 people in there and there are a lot of customers in there. So what they will be doing, they will be going to the other side. They will be going to the washroom or chatting with some other people and not attending the customers. So this type of things happen. That means, we are trying to figure out that, well, whether banks can reduce their workforce without reducing output. And other part of the reason is that, well, a government wants to increase their employment by asking the banks to hire more, right? So since there was a nationalized bank, they will follow the order of the government and hire more labor even if they don't need it. Anyway, so this is the inefficiency story. And then again, on the top of it, then you can add these things. Again, you can add this non-competitive market. We're talking about markup. So it's just, okay, banks are charging, or for that matter, manufacturing firms are charging a price of their output which is more than the marginal cost. So the question is that, well, how much is that? Okay. So remember, we were talking about that the markup by just saying that, okay, price being greater than marginal cost. But the question is by how much? Okay. Is it 1% or 2% or 10%? Recently, again, some people wrote a paper in QJE, and they were saying that markup is 120%. You know, who on earth is going to be believing that, like a markup is 120%? If it is 20%, I do believe, okay? But anyway, so you need to address this markup in your model, and then again, estimate the magnitude of that. So I used Chinese manufacturing data in several papers addressing markups and some other issues. And also we talk about innovation. I use the word innovation along with the technical change more or less in the to mean the same thing, but they can be different. And again, the production function or cost function, profit functions can be used to address these things. Now, since I'm not talking about any particular paper of mine, and again, to give you a little bit better understanding of what goes on, okay, if you are interested in estimating some of these things that I'm talking about, I just said, well, again, think in terms of an example. And again, this is example of AI. Nowadays, everybody is talking about AI. And again, like you go to a conference and then people are talking about the impact of AI on productivity, right? But the question is that they are missing many things, okay? So this is what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm involved in a project with some Chinese co-authors because they have, they told me that, well, they can get good data on AI. So let me just go over to some of the points, okay? So first question is that, well, whenever we're talking about AI, okay, whichever way you define it, okay, there is a problem of defining it. I don't think that there is a definition that will satisfy everybody, but let's not talk about it. So the first question is that, well, how do you, explain AI? I mean, in a production function, we just say, well, production depends on capital, labor, and things like that. So what happens to AI? Do you think that AI will be treated as a separate input, like capital and labor? That's one thing, okay? But most of the people will say, well, no, this is not a separate input. So then what is the other question? That means AI is helping, okay, capital and labor. That is making labor and capital more productive. Maybe labor more productive than capital, or capital more productive than labor, depending on the type of innovation or type of technical change that we are talking about, right? So then again, you augment the production function by making L and K, okay, again, you put an efficiency factor in front of it, saying that, okay, if you use AI, then your productivity is going to be higher than someone else who is not using AI or using less AI, okay? And the other question is that, well, whether, AI completely changes the production function, okay? Now, the main question is that, well, AI is not exogenous. If you are the manager of a firm, okay, you decide whether to use AI or not, right? So again, the standard econometrics that we all do, that means you throw AI as an argument in your regression, that's not going to work, because AI is a deliberate choice on the part of the firm, and you have to bring that in your system. That means you have to say that, well, producers are maximizing profit or minimizing cost, and in the process that means you have to bring AI in that context of profit maximization or cost minimization, okay? So econometric model should be capturing all those things. So again, as I said, well, you cannot just add AI as an argument in the production function. So again, coming back to the first point that I said, that econometrics is not as simple as many people think, that, well, you feed the data in a computer, get your results. No, I mean, nowadays, again, that is not the case, because you have to deal with all the things that I was talking about. Now to continue further, let's talk about the data issue. Okay, how do you measure AI? Okay, I have seen some papers, and these are all published because of the fact that everybody wants to write a paper because again it's AI. So the referees always say that, well, okay, this is kind of a good research, right? So they publish. So the question is that, well, is it a binary variable? What do you mean by binary variable? That means you have some firms who are using AI and some are not using AI. Okay, so it's 0, 1. Right? So now again, if you want to talk about the effect of AI on productivity, you might be sorting them into two groups, right? One who is using AI and the other one is not using AI. So this is just like RCT, right? So, but is that appropriate way of figuring out the effect of AI on productivity? The answer is no, because many other things are not exactly the same for two groups. Whenever we talk about RCT, we just say, well, we have a homogeneous sample, and then we arbitrarily or randomly put them in two different groups, right? Here it's not random, right? So remember, I was saying that, well, the firms that are using AI, it's again deliberate choice on their part. So even if you are just thinking that, well, this is going to be, this is a binary variable, 0, 1, it's not that simple. You have to bring the endogeneity issue into the picture, okay? And again, whether it is biased towards a particular input, capital or labor, or biased towards both. I mean, it cannot be biased towards both because it's relative, okay? And again, when you're talking about econometrics, you don't know what it is. So you have to develop a model that from where you can test whether technical change is biased towards a particular input or not, and what is the extent of bias and things like that, okay? So again, I just told you that there are several ways of doing it. One is that you throw AI as an additional variable. The other things are just you say that, well, AI is enhancing or input enhancing, productivity enhancing factor. That means it will go, mechanism through which AI works is not by itself, but it will go through the inputs. So that's kind of the mechanism, okay? So again, there's not a single model to address all those things, okay? So again, I'm just towards the end of it. So again, as I said that, well, I talk about some issues raised by Simoglu and Johnson, but their approach is mostly macro. They didn't have any particular model. They didn't talk about econometrics at all. They were talking about historical evidence to support the fact that, well, look, it's kind of the power, it's the institution that dictates the direction in which the economy will go or the income distribution will go. So they were talking about, or their models can be used to talk about income inequality. I just wrote that word, income inequality, because their model is macro. I do micro modeling. So I cannot talk about income distribution in that sense. But within the industry, we can just say, well, there are capital and labor share is increasing or decreasing over time. So there is a disparity between these two classes, but not in a macro sense, okay? So again, I don't work with macro data, but again, I don't have any problem if somebody says that, well, I have the data for 100 different countries for 15 years, can we do this type of things? Answer is yes, you can do that. But since the reason I focus on micro, because I have this tendency, maybe this is now too long I have been doing it, I do believe that, well, the producers, they have an objective, okay? So when you just say that, well, you ask somebody, why are you growing tomatoes? He or she won't say that, well, I'm doing it because my father was doing it, my grandfather was doing it. Maybe that's what he's doing, but we just said, well, economic answer to that question is, I'm doing it because this gives me what? Maximum profit, right? So and again, that is true. I have been to the village where I'm from, and again, I have talked to people. They give perfectly economic answer to those type of questions without knowing any economics at all. Okay, so because of that type of reasoning in my mind, I always think in terms of profit maximization. Now, when you get the macro data, what is the production unit? Country. And again, if you just say the country, I don't believe that a country maximizes profit or minimizes cost. I have difficulty in understanding, not only in understanding, but also telling people that you should go ahead and use profit maximization model for the country level data. So that's kind of the reason why I don't go in that direction, okay? So again, like a profit maximization or cost minimization, this kind of behavioral assumption, and these things are coming back now. So in the IO literature nowadays, some of the top journals are going back to estimation of production function. And I have been in this field for many years, so I have seen all these things. I said, well, when I started my PhD, I was doing those type of things. Nobody pays any attention to what I was doing because I was doing profit maximization with system. Now they are doing the same thing. But since I did so many years ago, they don't see what I have done. So this is what happened. That means if they don't side you with the next 2-3 years, you are dead. Okay, so I'm dead to them. Okay, whenever I get a chance, I just say, well, go back and read my first paper, 1987. I talk about all those things that they are talking about now. Okay, but these are people from different clubs. I don't go to their clubs, or I am not permitted to join in the club, but that's kind of a different story. So the point is that while in the IO literature, they're talking about economic behavior. They say that, well, the models are incomplete or under-identified, to use economic or econometrics terminology, unless you use economic behavior, okay? So for us, trained as an economist, we don't have any problem with profit maximization and cost minimization. But if you talk to people like, let's say, well, in other fields, okay? So they say, well, why are you using profit maximization or cost minimization? I mean, we can convince them that, look, whatever you are doing, deliberately you are not thinking in terms of that, but in fact you are using it implicitly, okay? So the point is that, well, you have to start up with this thing. That means, behavioral model. So start up with a production function, cost function, or that type of thing. Use the profit maximization, use the endogeneity things, and develop a system. And that is not trivial. That's sometimes quite complicated, even for me. But again, the point is that, well, nowadays I have my hands all over, right? So my tentacles are all over. So I select people that, okay, this is the guy in China who can do those things. So I just write down those things on my iPad, send it to them that this is the model, like, can you estimate it? That means these guys are better trained than me. Instead of me investing time to learn all those things, okay, I just said, well, my time is limited, so these guys are better in that way. They get some benefit from it. I just get also some benefit in terms of, working with this newer people. Okay, so again, like these models that I'm talking about can be extended in a variety of cases, and I have done a lot of those things. Okay, again, I'm not going to give you a list of the things that I have done, but if you're interested, okay, this is the website. And again, you can download my CV or just look at the type of papers that I have worked on, okay? So again, I'll stop in here, but again, if you have any question on any part, I will be happy to answer those questions. Okay, thank you.